Today, I'm here with Nicol Daňková, who's the head of SOC Incident Response and CTI at Henkel. Thank you so much for being here today. When something triggers a real incident inside a security operations center, what does that first moment actually look like?
I would say it would depend for sure on the organization and the seniority of the people and how the organization is built. But I would say that it is having every time one very common denominator, and it is a nervosity, it is a curiosity, it is excitement, it is adrenaline, it is stress, it is practically so many emotions, which every of the security operation analyst and every incident responder need to handle and let's say get them under the control, because now it is the time for which we have been training, for which we have been preparing for a very long period of time, and now it is really a time when every minute may really matter and every step would create particularly the difference between the success and defending the company or a really huge failure.
It sounds quite intense. Do you still get those kind of butterfly feelings, even though you must be quite used to them in some ways by now?
Well, I have grown into my role from the really chair of the junior security analyst. Yeah, so practically the incident responder and let's say the forensic analyst feeling is still somehow in my veins. And of course, I'm loving to jump around the incident and really see what exactly is happening, sometimes to deep dive into the stuff. And yes, of course, I'm having still the kind of a curiosity sparks in the moment when I have a feeling that I have really found something what may make the difference, what particularly would be really the game changer in the situation when we are searching for something that would explain us the situation and help us to defend us.
What tends to surprise organizations most about how incidents unfold compared to how they expect them to?
Yeah, that's, I would say, a really nice question, because I'm particularly not tied only to the Henkel. I'm also a researcher at university. I'm collaborating with plenty of the organization from the public and academic sphere. Also, I'm of course in a contact with plenty of the people who are in the cyber defense chairs in other companies. So I'm having particularly a really huge overview of how does it look like, particularly in the world of the cyber defenders? And I would say that at something what I would call like our group therapies, where we are somehow explaining and sharing what we are doing and how we are doing that. We are having one very common thing, and it is that the things are usually not going as they have been decided. And usually what we are seeing pretty often is that it is very different feeling, not only in the shoes of the incident response, but especially in the shoes of the organizations, when it is not just the drill, when everyone is knowing, hey, now it is really happening and I really need to make the decision, um, which might return to me one day as a boomerang. And I would say that that's particularly really the biggest challenge and the biggest challenge, which the organizations are, let's say, how they are perceiving the situations in general. Yeah, because in the moment when there is announced, hey, at this and that time, there will be a tabletop exercise. Just be ready, be available. You would be expecting email where is written, test this, test that. Yeah, of course, they know if it won't work out, it will end up just as a point in the lessons learned. But in the situation when we are dealing with a real incident, they know that the outcome may be way, way more serious than just one line in an Excel sheet.
Yes, true. We actually did an interview with someone else recently, and they said, when you go through these exercises, when you train, you're in a very controlled environment still. But then when you come to the actual threat being present and, things aren't curated for you to solve them, they kind of come at you. Do you find that's a similar kind of experience you've had?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. The attacker can go absolutely anywhere. Yeah, the attacker can go to any kind of a system which you wouldn't expect. Can do, of course, something very different than for what you are having a playbooks. And in such kind of a situations, it's really coming into the game the capability of the teams to be firstly agile, to really, let's say, be able to use some kind of a common sense, And also, on the other hand, to have some kind of knowledge of the processes of the people who are in the organization, and to find out what exactly to trigger when, what kind of possibilities and the capabilities we are having in the organization. And those things are very often something what as, let's say, disappearing from the mind of the people. Yeah, especially also in addition to the lack of a capability to, for example, make the decisions, because people don't want to be the ones who are really triggering the red buttons. No one wants to be the person who triggers it for the first time after 3 years, for example. Yeah, because they will know this person has done it and it hasn't been necessary. That's I would say something what in the end is creating sometimes quite a huge panics in the teams, because they are expecting, yeah, this is supposed to be happening based on the process, but the situation which is here, it is practically not practically exactly suiting. So into what box with which process are we supposed to exactly put it, instead of just, let's say, having someone who will stand up and say, hey, this is what we currently do, this is particularly role of each of you, and we will meet up in this and that time, and we will particularly discuss what will be our further steps. Yeah, instead of that, unfortunately, plenty of the organizations are turning into, pardon my French, into the bunch of a headless running chicken.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess it's a very challenging environment. And would you say that's one of the assumptions about security? Is this kind of because it must be, I feel like, even though you're prepared for some level of kind of anxiety, but you know, a lot of the time it's a lot of pragmatism. There's, even though there's policies and procedures to follow, you have to be quite, as you say, quite an agile security professional in order to deal with the amount and the stress associated with that. Is that maybe one of the assumptions that you would say where the posture tends to, or the perception tends to break down once that kind of happens and you're in that environment?
Yeah, well, maybe as you have firstly said, let's say, the question, or I will, let's say, try to wrap all what you have just mentioned. When we be thinking about the role of the security of the organization and how the security is in general perceived, and again, I will be more likely speaking really generally, because this is particularly the experience of plenty of the people. It is that the people don't want to talk to us unless it is really necessary to.
Oh, wow.
So very often, yeah, and unfortunately, especially I would say regarding the incident response, the people know that in the moment when I write them, they are probably dealing with some kind of a trouble. So the same applies to my team. But on the other hand, the point is that I would say that it is quite a pity, because then the people are somehow unknown, and they are particularly just getting known who is who in the security organizations, and that's something what I still deeply believe. So that is something what even despite it is currently changing, it is still a huge stigma to particularly be in active contact with the security guys. And really, there is a huge difference in the situation when we are seeing that the people from the security department are very well known to the core functions of the organization. And now I mean, for example, also the incident responders. I mean also, for example, the security architects. And they exactly know who is doing what. Than if the very first contact is happening during critical situations. And this is practically also something what is creating the difference between some kind of a comfortable collaboration, or practically adding another level of being in the situation which is full of unknowns.
Yeah, I mean, if your team members are unknown and you're approaching a very difficult situation, then it would help to build that rapport and have that level of ease to go into
Absolutely.
that situation
Yeah.
with. And so this kind of leads on to my next question. So when you have that kind of level of pressure and that level of unknown, even if you don't know your team members, but then say if you're
Mhm.
going through an incident, what becomes hardest to manage? Is it the incident? Is it the team dynamics? Is it the pressure? For you personally, what do you find the most challenging?
Mhm. Yeah, I would say that all those things are particularly coming hand in hand. Yeah, it
Mm.
is. It is particularly really everything absolutely connected, and you need to take a look at the environment really holistically during the security incident, because in the moment, if you don't know the team, then it is creating uncertainty in what exactly the people are supposed to be doing, who is supposed to be doing what. Then it is creating, let's say, a higher level of distress, because then you are having even a worse capability to really handle the incident and really coordinate the response in general. Yeah, and then particularly it is having a snowball effect, I would say. Yeah, if one of those things is particularly not functioning, then the others are just, let's say, joining the huge ball which is going down the mountain and hitting your organization. So I would say that's the hardest to manage in general in such kind of a situations, is really knowing what is going on, having some kind of a clarity, and having some kind of, let's say, a central point of a knowledge where everyone can go and everyone can ask and verify the information, because that's one of the biggest issues which is often happening during the incident response. And now I wouldn't be mentioning only the security incident, but I mean even any kind of a major incident. It is practically assuming instead of verifying. And if plenty of the people who are, let's say, in this kind of a joint collaboration group for solving some kind of an incident or security incident are working only based on assumptions and not verifications, because they are not asking, because, for example, they don't know whom to ask, where to ask, or where are, for example, documented all the steps and all the knowledge which has been already found out, then it is firstly creating mess in the quality of the information which is being shared and handed. And secondly, it might be also causing the slowing down in the response, and people really walking in the circles, because then may happen that the people are verifying exactly the same thing and trying to solve exactly the same thing, which has been, for example, solved already 2 hours ago. But there hasn't been any kind of a proper place where to share, where to communicate. The same applies also, as you have mentioned, about the systems. So if some kind of system is already down, if if the system is still alive, if it is contained, where exactly is the attacker? If we are having already some kind of a map where the attacker could be. Yeah, those all are the things which are really important to be shared and somehow centralized and really clearly accessible to the people who really need it. And that's a thing which is very often really complicated, especially in the bigger environments, or it might be also in the small environments where they are not having a proper overview of the toolset, where they are having nothing like a CMDB, where they are having literally no idea what is running at which server directly, because they have never ever needed it before. Because, yeah, well, they are having, let's say, just few IT guys who are taking care of their whole infrastructure, but no one is able to directly go and tell you, yeah, this, and that is supposed to be running on this server. This is looking odd, because no one has ever documented it before. So those things are something where the people need to go, what they need to really verify. And if this kind of a verification is happening 5 times during incident response, then you can really imagine what kind of a really slowing down effect it is having for the responders, for the quality, for the even time to contain.
Yeah,
And
so
how
would you
many opportunities it is giving to the attacker, of course.
so would you say this would be the kind of the difference between containing an incident quickly and making, the impact of it is kind of slowed down or halted, and the process is kind of cut in half the time wise, is to have a single source of a verification of truth where people can go and then really understand the kind of a map or game plan of the so-called attacker? Would you say that would be one of the big differences between an organization that maybe is more affected than one that isn't?
Yeah, definitely. It is something where lays the difference between the failure and the success. Really, the visibility and the knowledge of what is exactly going on. Because you can have the absolutely best playbooks in the world. Yeah, you can have the best CMDB. You can have the let's say the best experts in the given technology aboard. But in the moment when there is no proper coordination of who is supposed to be doing what,
Sure.
and some kind of overview of, okay, what questions do we need to answer, what is popping up, what are the key findings, then even the best people really cannot succeed under such conditions, because they are just, let's say, digging into their own rabbit holes. So the people practically are experts, as mentioned, and they are really focusing only on their point of view. And as if there is no one who is putting, let's say, the pieces together, then they are just focusing on their stuff, and they, for example, cannot see it holistically. Or, as mentioned, the collaboration, for example, does not work. And that's particularly, I would say, a thing which is making a huge difference, a really significant difference between, we are having some incident response, we are having some kind of a team, we are having experts aboard, or we are having a team which is really in sync, which is able to collaborate, and which knows exactly what to do.
I think it's really important, as you say. In my mind, I'm kind of imagining all these puzzle pieces that are doing their own thing operationally, but you need someone to actually construct it to make sense of the landscape. That's what you kind of conjured in my mind regarding that. But yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the point. Yeah, the really great third lead is a person who is really, let's say, driving the, let's say, the bus, which is really full of the great people aboard, to the, successfully to the final destination. And for us, the final destination is a good incident response. It is practically the situation when the threat is contained, the damages are as small as possible. But even if you are having practically the best mechanics who are taking care of, I don't know, the construction of the bus, and then the people who are the best navigators and whatever, in the end, it is all dependent on the guy who is behind the steering wheel and is exactly knowing, hey, but this is feeling odd, this we should avoid, and this is practically our direction. Yeah, we shouldn't take such kind of a circumvention. This is practically our aim, and there we are going directly. And that's, I would say, something what is extremely hard. It is really extremely hard role, I have to say, because the person needs to be really, firstly, resilient to the stress, because usually it is also the person who is, I would say, even the slapping figure, for the higher management, because it is the person who will be doing all the reporting. It is the person who is talking to all of the C-level people. It is a role which is particularly also supposed to be defending the technicians from the upper management, and it already, this is creating a stress. Then also the person really needs to know where are the blank spots, and really insist, and sometimes be really hard on the team to, let's say, don't take a circumventions, and to really focus on answering the key questions, because of course we are all enthusiasts, and we are ready going for the juicy stuff, for the very interesting stuff. But sometimes, or even more than sometimes, it is pretty often happening that we are practically finding plenty of interesting information, but we are not able to answer practically the base skeleton, the base skeleton, the base structure of the information which is important for the incident. So that's practically something what is the role of the incident response lead, to really ensure that the people are firstly focusing on the important things, because from that we are capable to really search further and more in the depth. Because otherwise the people are just, let's say, running around and doing plenty of the things, but sometimes they are lucky, sometimes it is having some sense, but with a structure it is always better. And also, last but not least, it is a person who is ensuring that all the evidence is, for example, collected for some kind of a further analysis. It is also super important. In the case, if we are dealing with a situation which might be followed up with a law enforcement, it is also something where the incident response lead needs to really to pay an attention to each and every detail, to find out, okay, we really need to be very careful here. We really need to follow some kind of a specific protocols. Otherwise, the evidence might be damaged for some kind of a law enforcement usage. Also, those people need to think, as I was mentioning, really holistically from the perspective of the organization. So to think, for example, where is practically the line where we need to report the incident to some kind of a regulatory office. to have some kind of a knowledge about even the regulations in various countries. Because we are not talking nowadays only about the European Union, and the GDPR and the NIS2, but we are having also similar laws already in the North America. There are laws in India which are even more strict than what we are having in the European Union. There are some rules also in the China. And the incident response lead, if it is really a person or if it is really the right person at the place, is having already some kind of an overview of what might be necessary for each of those regulations and what kind of a data we need to deliver to the colleagues from, for example, I don't know, the legal or data protection or whoever who is supposed to be doing the reporting there for us. Because also those are the things which I would say that are causing some kind of a, I would even say like a secondary damage, because you are having some kind of a damage which is coming from the incident itself, but then you are having some kind of an aftermath. And it is that you haven't fulfilled some kind of regulation demands. And those fines can be astronomical. We can be talking about millions of euros, what is not practically just a spit into the ocean, right?
No, that's a
So
huge
those are
amount.
also the things which are laying on the shoulders of the incident responder, or the lead of the incident response, to be very specific. And all of those things are really making, in general, the huge difference between just having experts who somehow assume that they know what they are supposed to do, or the people who are really very well synced, who know for what they are there, how they are supposed to collaborate, what they are defending, and also they are aware that we are not, let's say, living only in the isolated environment of the security operations.
Yeah, it's a real multifaceted role, and it's all about, I think, what I've learned from you today, having that support of the wider organization, not just within your team, having the groundwork laid for you so that you can do the process and to the highest standard you can. It's all readily available to the team members and to all of the organization that knows exactly where things are located, how each of their roles contribute to this, and then what you've just taught me then just now is you have this secondary responsibility of making sure that you have the evidence gathered, you have reported to the correct institutions, and you've properly gone through the proper steps.
I would just like to add one note to the end. One very important thing during the incident response, which I may share to any incident responder, especially also to the incident response lead: please stay calm. Don't forget to drink water and to eat, because those are the things which we are very often tend to forget, and in the end are ending up with really a huge exhaustion. But don't forget about the stress stuff.
Great. Well, that's really great advice. So thank you so much, Nicole, for your time.